Hey everybody, Chad Wesley Smith here for Juggernaut Training Systems, bringing you the second part of our Pillars of Great Deadlift Technique series. Make sure you go back and check out part 1, where we talk about finding your stance width and understanding the hip hinge pattern. Here in part 2, we're going to address grip width, hook grip, over under ideas and concerns, as well as how to engage the lats and create a rigid torso position for the start in your deadlift. I'm joined by IPF World Champion and World Record holder, Marissa Inda. How you doing today?
Okay.
All right. Marissa has deadlifted 187.5 kilos, 413 pounds in the 52 kilo class, about 114 pounds body weight. So one of the best deadlifters in the world, former IPF World Record holder in the deadlift. Still the master world record holder in the deadlift. Master of disaster. So in the last series, we talked about the stance width, which is going to be right under the hips, kind of where you would do a vertical jump from, maybe with some personal adjustments based on your own body proportions, being a little bit narrower like Marissa, or a little bit wider compared to your body a la Brian Shaw, and how far the bar will need to be away from you. And we discussed a hip hinging pattern, understanding how to keep as close to vertical shin as possible as you load tension into your hamstrings. So once you've hip hinged, now you're grabbing the bar, and as the general rule of thumb, you're going to want to grab the bar as close to your shins as possible. Of course, you don't want your forearm to end up on top of your knee, because that's going to keep the bar farther away from you than you want to be. So it's just outside the knees. Some people, if they're very broad shouldered, very big chest, may need to go a little bit wider than that to allow for their chest to come through at the lockout. But again, that's more of an exception than a rule. And if you're watching this, you're probably not the exception to the rule. So don't automatically think, oh yeah, I'm a big barrel-chested guy, I need to put my hands out wider. So the hands are going to be right outside the shins. And you can see for Marissa, being the size that she is, this actually means that about our first two and a half fingers are on the smooth part of the bar, which for her is going to require even greater grip strength to avoid it slipping out of the hand. And a cue that I really like here to help ensure the hip hinging pattern is that if we were to make a window with our arms and the bar, and then you're going to take your knees and put them through that window. That's going to ensure that the bar stays close to you, that the bar is touching the shins, just lightly touching the shins, not dug into it at all, because we don't want to add friction, but it'll make sure that you're maintaining as close to vertical shin position as possible, but maybe a little bit of forward knee movement to ensure that you're able to use your legs, your quads effectively to push away from the floor. Again, when we're in this start position, you should have your weight evenly distributed through the entire foot. Of course, you know not to be way up on your toes with having your heel off the ground, but the more common idea that a lot of people are cued so much to sit back that they end up kind of being able to wiggle their toes, and they're falling back away from the bar and not able to effectively push themselves away from the ground. So now that we've found that good start position, we've hip hinged, loaded tension into our hamstrings, made the window between our arms and the bar, and put our knees through that window. Now we need to ensure that we have a very rigid torso position. A common mistake you'll see people make in the deadlift would be the upper back rounding right off the floor, their hips rising relatively fast compared to their shoulders. So they begin to pull, and this kind of question mark action happens, and the bar gets away from them as they start to pull. That is going to be due to a lack of lat and upper back tightness. And the cue that I like to use for that is to protect your armpits. I have two much older brothers that used to beat me up when I was a little kid and tickle me until I would piss my pants. So I got very good at the idea of protecting my armpits from those sort of tickle attacks. Hopefully Adam and Zach are watching this. And so that's the cue that I like to use here. So as Marissa reaches down to grab the bar, if I was to come here and try and tickle her armpits, she's squeezing her tricep into her lat to block that. Now if she was to relax her lats and her shoulders get kind of forward, now she's totally open to that armpit attack. So we're going to squeeze the tricep into the lat and protect the armpit to create a rigid torso. Another way that you can think of this, if you want to start from the top, is to try and reach your arms down as long as you can. As I'm standing upright here and I push my arms down my side, I'm not only elongating my arm, which is a great thing to do in the deadlift, I'm also engaging my lats very hard, and I can reach down and maintain that same position. So, key points to focus in this pillar is that the hands are right outside the shins, which is going to allow our arms to be as effectively long as they can be. Maybe you need to go a little bit wider if you're very broad-shouldered, broad-chested, to allow your chest to come through effectively at the lockout. You don't want to be so close that your arm is on top of your knee, pushing the bar away from you. And then once you've grabbed the bar, you're going to engage your lat by using the cue of protect your armpits. So squeezing your tricep into your lat, and that's going to ensure that you have a very rigid torso position and your shoulders and hips can move effectively together off the floor. The final point that we need to address in this one is grip, is how you're going to grab the bar, where it goes in your hand, and what kind of grip that you use. So really two common ways that people are going to deadlift heavy weights is they're going to use an over-under grip or they're going to use a hook grip. I can't really say that one is better than the other. They each sort of offer their own advantages. Hook grip is going to effectively make your arms a bit longer and ensure more protection for the bicep, because it's not uncommon for the underhand, if people start to bend their arm with the underhand, to suffer bicep tears. But over-under grip is certainly more comfortable than the hook grip, and the hook grip can become a limiting thing based on essentially the toughness of the skin in your thumb, because if the skin rips away from the thumb, then you've missed the grip, even if your hands may have been strong enough. So for the hook grip, a lot of it's going to depend on the size of your hand. Like for someone with Marissa's sized hands, which are not big, it would be pretty difficult to effectively get a hook grip on this 29mm bar. So she does really well with the over-under grip. And in that over-under grip, you want to have the bar as low in the hand as possible, so it becomes a bit more reliant upon your finger strength, and your fingers are acting like hooks. If the bar gets too far and too high in the hand, there's going to be a lot more room for the bar to slide down in the hand and maybe tear calluses along the way. In the hook grip, getting as much of your thumb around the bar as possible, so you can get, of course, at minimum one finger hooked around the thumb, but ideally maybe two, and potentially if you have a very big hand or a very long thumb, 3 fingers hooked around the bar. Again, one is not necessarily better than the other. If I had to pick, I guess it would be better for people to do hook grip because of the bicep health and that slightly longer arm position of being in a double overhand. But most of the best deadlifters in the world are pulling with that over-under, so it's probably fine for you as well. So that concludes pillar number 2, addressing your grip width, how to grab the bar, and how to engage your lats for a rigid torso position. Make sure you check out our first pillar addressing stance, width, and hip hinging, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next 3.